Hello and welcome to Connect, the podcast for the California MBA featuring one-on-one interviews with movers and shakers in the mortgage industry. I'm Susan Milazzo, CEO of the California MBA, and I'm very happy that you could join us today. Before I welcome today's guest, I'd like to thank our 2025 President's Council sponsors. And these companies provide a tremendous amount of financial support to the California MBA, in large part so that we can continue to be your strong advocate before the California State Legislature and our regulators. So please join me in thanking this year's President's Council sponsors. And those companies are AmeriHome, Consolidated Analytics, Funding Shield, Guild Mortgage, Rocket Mortgage, Wiener Brodsky Kiter, and Western Alliance Bank. Thank you all so much for your support this year. We greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to welcome today's guest. I'm very happy to be welcoming my friend, Amy Moses, who is Business Development Consultant for MISMO. Amy, welcome.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm happy that you could join us on Connect. I have known you for a while now, I think going back from when you were at MERS, but I love to start out with finding out how people came into the mortgage industry. So why don't you share your journey with us?
Thanks. I've noticed that most people say by accident they fell into the industry, and that's the same thing with me. When I was in college in Iowa, I needed an internship in order to graduate, and I fulfilled that obligation by finding one at GMAC Mortgage, and that was to create training materials. And then at the end of that, they offered me a full-time position. So I dove right into learning about customer service, collections, loss mit, escrow administration, everything involved in servicing so that I could create those training materials to train new hires that we brought on. So it was a quick deep dive into loan administration and servicing. And here I am all these years later.
All these years later, I love it. Well, thank you for that. And it has been a while since you and I've known each other because I do remember that we met when you were at MERS. So everybody kind of stumbles into it, but then they stick around. So you've now joined MISMO not long ago. Congratulations on that. I'd love for you to share a little bit about the value of the MISMO organization and what you all do and how lenders can become involved.
Sure. Well, I want to address a couple of things. I've been here now almost 4 months and have been having a lot of conversations in the industry and a couple of things that people don't know. First of all, the acronym MISMO, it stands for Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization. And MISMO is a subsidiary of the Mortgage Bankers Association, the MBA. And a lot of people don't know that. And the value of MISMO is in its role as a data standards body. We are the data standards body for the United States mortgage industry. And what that means is we've created a universal language for exchanging data across all the different mortgage participants. So when data changes hands between lenders and servicers, investors, regulators, all of the vendors, it's standardized. And one difference between the MBA, California MBA, right, where you all are very focused on legislative issues and advocacy, MISMO, although it's also a membership-based organization, has a little bit different bend where we're focused on problem solving through standardization. So that's the value of MISMO. And through that data standardization, we help lenders decrease costs, increase speed, improve the accuracy of their data, and enable innovation. So everything revolves around that data world and tech.
Yeah.
And you asked, Susan, how lenders can get
Yeah, how can lenders become involved with MISMO?
Yeah.
I know a lot of my membership and my leadership are very involved with MISMO.
Yes, a couple of your board members are also board members of MISMO, which is great to see that collaboration across the industry. So anybody, I'll just say this, can have a seat at the table, at the MISMO table. You do not have to be a member of MISMO to be involved. Of course, we encourage you to become a member. And for lenders, what that looks like is paying their innovation investment fee. Those are kind of what we consider the membership dues. And what that is every year members receive an invoice based on how many loans they've originated, and it's 75 cents per loan. And that is the innovation investment fee that earns lenders that membership. And with that membership, then lenders can be involved in work groups. And so, as simply as possible, I'll explain this as work groups. There are about 38 of them right now running in MISMO. That's where the problems are solved. So somebody will come to us with, hey, we think standardization will help, increase efficiencies in this area. And then there's a work group that's started where the GSEs are engaged, government agencies, lenders, vendors, MI companies, consulting companies, title companies, right? All across that mortgage ecosystem. Anybody can have a seat at that table and help solve that specific issue.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you for that. It is an acronym I think that's familiar in the industry, but thank you for kind of sharing a little bit more
Yeah.
depth about what the organization does and why it's so important. What are some of the key initiatives for MISMO this year that benefit the industry? I know lenders are certainly, always looking for ways to cut costs, especially the cost to originate a loan.
Yes, exactly. So one of those issues that I mentioned, one of the lenders brought to us was going through that state exam by the state regulators saying, you know what, all 50 states have a different process for this and request different data from us. It would be really helpful if this process was standardized. And all 50 states are asking for that same set of data. It would really save us a lot of time and headaches during the review process, make it much more efficient. And so one of the work groups that I mentioned, one of those 38 work groups, is working on that to create that standard file. And then we, MISMO, are partnering with the Conference of State Banking Supervisors
Mm.
on that to roll that out and working with a lot of the state regulators, like Alabama is very involved. I know California's in on this. So getting those state regulators to say, yes, we'll buy in on this, and then working with lenders, LOS providers, doc providers, right, to move this initiative forward. So that will be a huge win for all the IMBs who lend in multiple states. Will really save them a lot of time and help them
Yeah.
provide cleaner data during that exam.
Yeah, create efficiencies for sure.
Mhm.
How can people
Yeah.
find out like what's happening at MISMO if they're not
Yeah.
yet a member?
That is a great question. We have a newsletter called MISMO Matters, and that's something you can subscribe to. And the link I know is being put in our chat here for the podcast. And that is released on a monthly basis around the middle of the month. And we keep you up to date on what work groups are doing, our summits, which we have one coming up in the fall in September. And there's a link to register for that as well. We have 3 summits a year. There's always a winter, a spring, and a fall. And so there'll be a feature on new companies. We always have new companies, of course, who are joining MISMO, getting engaged. We feature them. And then a lot of our press releases as well focus on here's a new product or process or data set, right, that we've created that we want feedback on. And so those are included in the newsletter as well, but keep an eye out for those releases.
Excellent. Okay, so we have we'll share with you in the description the link to join the newsletter, attend the annual summit or the fall summit if you're interested. Great resources to get more involved with MISMO. We are somewhat fresh off our big tech event, our Mortgage Innovators Conference, where, of course, we talk about kind of cutting edge things in the mortgage technology world. What do you think some of the big trends in mortgage technology will be over the next 12 months? I know there wasn't, I think, a presenter that didn't talk about artificial intelligence at Mortgage Innovators, but is that it, or is there anything in particular beyond that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Susan. And having been at Mortgage Innovators, I'll just say it was a fantastic event.
Thanks.
And I know everybody there was talking about the strong content and how much they learned, and they were, messaging back to their people back in the office what they were learning at that event. And yes, Gen AI. Huge topic. And at MISMO, one of those 38 groups is an AI community of practice. And so that's a group that we invite anyone to join. They meet on a monthly basis to talk about the latest trends within
Hmm.
AI. We've created a glossary of terms so that any, say, vendor who's working with lenders can provide that glossary of terms. We're working on a framework, and then there'll be other again, ways to try to standardize how we're talking about AI and what we're doing in regards to AI. And then we'll have some AI demos and presentations, use cases at our summit. But as far as what else, we're just kind of opening the lid to look into open banking, which isn't necessarily a tech trend, but it uses a lot of technology or will use, right? Will incorporate the use of a lot of tech vendors. And we held a workshop about open banking at our spring summit. And one of the first questions people had was, well, what is open banking, right? And that's a system
Right.
that allows consumers and businesses to securely share their financial data with third-party providers through APIs with explicit consent. So that'll open up our traditionally closed financial system to
Wow.
more innovation, competition, transparency, right? So that's where the tech comes in because it can open it up to a lot of potential new tech vendors, right, to use that data in different ways to serve consumers. So I think we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming year.
Wow. My goodness. That is fascinating. There's so much. It seems like the trajectory of technology in the mortgage space and in financial services in general is just kind of really on a very steep trajectory forward. So great that we have MISMO to establish some standards and to keep their arms around what's happening in that area. Amy, you have been, through MISMO and through other companies that you've been with, you've been a longtime big supporter of the California MBA, which I'm very grateful for. You're also a great promoter of the event or of our events and our association, so we're also grateful for that. Can you share with our listeners why you choose to support the California MBA?
Sure. Yes, I love the California MBA. I've served on the board of the Maryland Mortgage Bankers and Brokers and been engaged with some of the other, state MBAs, but I'm always promoting the California MBA so much that people have asked me like, do you live in California? Did you live in California? What's your tie to California? I know, I just love the California MBA. And one of the reasons is the people, right? And that starts with you, Susan, and your team, right? You've created a great environment there. The board that you have is wonderful. And then you get the right people and the right companies at your events and engaged in your membership. And so to me, it's all about the people, starting with the people. And then, we talked about mortgage innovators. You have several other conferences. I'm looking forward to attending the Western Secondary Conference in August. That's always a superb event. Like the content is always fantastic. The networking events give you an opportunity to talk to a lot of people. And I know that there's a lot of legislative work that's being done that, I haven't been as involved with, but I always enjoy hearing you talk about that and sharing at the CAMPAC event and know that, a lot of people look to California and what's happening there from an advocacy standpoint. So you guys are just a leader in so many ways, and that's why it's important for me to always stay engaged.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And it was great to have MISMO at Mortgage Innovators Conference this year. Look forward to engaging and having you guys back in May of 2026 for Mortgage Innovators Conference. And Amy, thank you for being a guest on Connect.
Thank you, Susan.
And thanks to all of you for joining us today. To access any of our past episodes, you can follow us on our YouTube channel. We're also available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next time on Connect.